Yeah. 2 years ago.
I know.
It's 7:01 and you were live.
Okay, so we'll get started on the April 12th meeting of the City of Oneonta Environmental Board. We do not have quorum today. The people that are here are Commissioner Gina Keel, Commissioner Catherine Pollack, Chair Kevin Schultz, and Councilmember Mark Davies. We will have a few things that we just wanted to kind of touch base on, but we will obviously not make any, do any official business or anything like that. But I think what we can certainly do, and we can't approve the minutes from 2 months ago, so that's fine as well. But I think what we can do is we can get an update from Mark to see if there's been anything, because it's been a while. Sure. So if you want to give us a quick update on that.
I'd be happy to. So a couple of things that will interest this particular board. So one, you raised the deer issue a while. That was batted around by everybody here for several months. It was brought to the Quality of Life and Infrastructure Committee, QUILIC, I guess we're calling it. I don't know. And so that committee kind of reviewed what you all did, looked at some other information that Mayor Drenick had gathered from mayors of other kind of upstate municipalities, and what we concluded was that we felt that it was too big an issue for us to be able to devote our time to, and made the recommendation that the mayor create a task force to study it, because the idea of surveying, for example, which was one of the things that this body recommended, I was concerned about our committee's ability to be able to do the survey personally, because it's surveying, and so there's a lot of time and energy that's put into that. So I do not know whether I have not had the conversation with the mayor since that meeting, so I don't know whether he will be doing that or not. But that's certainly the recommendation that was made from the committee. And part of the reason we made that recommendation is looking at the work of others, kind of similar municipalities. That was one of the steps they did. Concerns.
Mm-hmm.
Task force study, because it's not just, there's a lot of different parts here. So if it's determined that we have a problem, and we're going to kind of put it that way, then what are the next steps? And from everything that we've been reading through with all the other mayors, the next steps became that the only action is some kind of program of call it. And so if that's the
Recreational hunting, or what do they call it?
Yes, that's
We do not use the C word.
Oh, we don't use that word?
That's what the DEC people say.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Very well-antlered
Tomorrow
deer.
communications, yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'll make sure I keep that language a little bit
I
more
forgot you weren't here for that.
accurate, yeah.
Yeah.
So that way, I was here, I must have blanked out at that particular time. So that way, if that's to be the route, if that's to be the route, I think that there needs to be a lot of public input first, because that's obviously, I think, can be a bit controversial. But then if that is the route, then there's quite a bit of work that needs to go into putting together a program such as that. So we reviewed several other programs of this sort, and they were very involved. There was all kinds of different processes. There was particular permits, and you have to waive your different laws. There's a lot of things. And so my thinking, or our thinking as a committee was that it was a lot for us as a committee that is dedicated to other kind of larger issues within the city, to be able to dedicate the time that we need to that, so we can get task force to be the best avenue of addressing that. So I think the mayor will be letting us know whether he will kind of follow that direction soon.
Makes sense. I think all of the committees, boards are busy with their own other agenda.
Right. Well, that's exactly. It's recognizing the reality of this particular task. A, to understand the scope of the problem, and B, the solutions of what they might be. There's the obvious ones, and we certainly agree with the recommendation of the environmental board that we need to do a better job of publicizing the not feeding. You will be happy to know that there was somebody that was cited who was dropping off food, large amounts of food. I'm pointing at you because this was at the top of kind of State Street. There's a SUNY Oneonta parking lot to the left there, was kind of pulling up in a truck and dropping food out the back pretty regularly, feeding a big group of deer that Gene and I are very familiar with. And so that was reported by someone, and the police got right on that and was able to cite the person. So that was one thing. And then there's been other folks that have been calling in because of the publicity surrounding this, other people have been calling in. So I think we can begin to continue to try to emphasize that we don't want to feed the deer. And I've been certainly trying to speak to that when I speak with people as well. I've received quite a few. It seems that the second ward this is a big concern with the second ward because of Wilbur Park and then the area kind of on the edge of SUNY Oneonta where there's quite
Yeah, sure. I know they haven't seen places, but that's where most of the complaints have
Right.
come from.
If we might have the opportunity to suggest names for the task force at some point in the future, that would be great.
I will,
Do you have an acronym in mind? Do you have an acronym that you just want to get out there?
No.
I feel like you do.
I have a person.
no, she meant,
Oh, I thought you said a name. We have a name.
Can we help submit names for the task force?
I thought you wanted to name the committee. I'm like, ooh, this is going to be good.
I'll mention that to the mayor that this board has a few folks that they would like to recommend.
Yeah, because I could think of somebody too, besides, I feel like I have to target about me, but besides me, I know there's some people have been in touch with me who are very interested in it,
Right.
that I think have some good skills for that sort of thing.
Right. And I think that's exactly it, is that in my thinking, this takes this off of it's not the environmental board's issue anymore, it's not the quality of life infrastructure issue anymore. At some point, imagine it will become a task force issue and they can then study this really in depth. So you don't have a target on you that you're expected to join that committee or join that task force. Certainly, if someone from this board would want to be represented on that task force, I don't think the mayor would, I can't speak for the mayor, but I don't think that would be an issue. I think we can certainly recommend that. So, but yeah, I think any means we can put forward. So that's one thing, and of course, that was the most immediate action that'd be going on. Kind of related to this is we put in for, I've kind of mentioned this to you in the past, but a local waterfront revitalization program planning grant a while back. And we received it, so it's a planning grant. And there has been the creation of a waterfront advisory committee, WAC. We'll have some fun with the acronyms there.
Is Mike on whack?
I don't know who's on WAC right now. It's, yeah, he might be. I haven't seen that group, actually, let me see. No, I don't have access to that. So I've been asked to be the council liaison with the WAC and with this local waterfront revitalization program. So we'll certainly be in this capacity bringing information back to the environmental board as the group is working on things.
There were a lot of fishermen out there today. I drove by there. You know, there's demand too.
Yeah.
Opportunity for more recreation, et cetera.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's some great demand. It's funny, you said that. I saw somebody loading fishing gear into a car today.
It was
First
today.
time
They
I've
were
ever
out
seen that.
fishing. Yeah.
It must be trout season just opened.
I think, but the river didn't look as like great to do that.
The water was moving. It was very.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, no, but to me this is an exciting development. I really commend Judy Pangman and her efforts to stay on top of this grant. I don't know if you know the history of it. She applied to it several times. We didn't get it, and she just felt that we had a good project, and she kept going back at it. So luckily we were able to get this. So let the planning begin, and hopefully something more can come of this. But it's a really kind of neat. In my thinking, it connects some of our water areas. So it's not just focusing on just the Susquehanna. It looks at our kind of watershed area of the lake up on East Street and our reservoir there and all the way down through there. So it's kind of, there's some neat projects that are potentially could come out of this. But again, this is a planning, this is not a doing grant. This is the first steps in hopefully being able to move forward. So that really is probably the information that's most interesting to this particular group. Just trying to think from the top of my head, and that's it. Any questions?
No. I think we've been on and off for so long in here. I think I'm out of the order. Are you planning on being a petitioner, or are you sitting here just listening and taking notes?
Just listening.
Okay. Okay, fantastic. I just didn't want to make sure. I wanted to make sure that we.
Can I say something about water? If we're talking about water?
Yes, please.
The Kaufman lecture on campus is coming up on 4/20,
This is my.
and I sent the flyer to everyone.
This is my sabbatical work, by the way.
It is. This is an incredibly compelling story. But what we learned, that is a lesson for our municipality potentially, is even if we have good water in our water tests, It's the lines, the
I
lead
was
lines.
thinking about that though.
And every house, I mean, I have 1920s are,
I,
there is lead. There is lead in either pipes or.
sure, in the paint. I thought though that there was a big replacement drive.
So, do you know anything about, or what, I know at the schools they have to test. The K-12.
They all have, everybody has to be tested, but I thought
But not
there was a
households.
big measure, oh no, well, I can get into that later. I know all about the lead and copper rule, but
Terrific.
what I was just wondering, do you remember, I could have sworn when I first moved here, I heard that they were replacing a lot of the lead lines.
There's been
Sure,
some,
there's
yeah,
been
there's
some.
been some replacement. If you recall Spruce Street
Yeah.
8 years ago, maybe more.
Yeah,
Probably
completely
less.
torn up for months. They took out everything.
Oh, good.
That
Yeah.
was an
That's good.
example of that. And there's been other streets. I can certainly talk to City Administrator Mattias and ask him what the update is.
I was gonna ask him about that. I have a couple of other things I keep meaning to ask him too, so I can.
And we want to know what areas of the city have been served and which areas might not have been served, which is also part of this story.
What I can
In
tell
Flint,
what I
you
can
know.
Oh,
tell you-
I spent 2 weeks teaching Flint every year.
Awesome.
What I can tell you is that it's on his radar, and he's been addressing, for example, we have the West Street project, I think that is including water as well, so I mean, once we're digging up these streets, we're going for everything, so I think that, you know.
Yeah, I think right when I moved here, they were pulling up a lot of stuff in Pine Street.
That's great, but we still have to think about the household, so from the cities
That's
to
exactly
the
it.
household, we still have issues.
That's exactly it, so
Yeah.
while we're hitting those main pipes, that's exactly the problem, is that a lot of those individual, the tie-ins to the houses are still a
Oh.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so inside the houses might not be, because they may be.
Well,
Oh, there's connectors.
and even then, the fun thing is that if it was if there was any copper that went in there, any brass that went in before 1983, lead-free was anything less than 10%.
Lead-free-ish.
Yeah. So kind of, diet lead, I guess. Oh yeah, I could talk about the lead and copper rule all night. I won't.
Maybe after.
But afterwards, we can chat.
Wow.
Yes, we can chat about that.
Okay. So 4:20, 7 PM, Alumni Field House. Community's welcome.
I'm hoping to be able to get there.
Right there.
A confluence of events that
Okay,
day.
my hands are gonna do that next week.
Good luck.
I
I keep reading the notes and it takes twice as long.
Really?
Yeah, this is that good.
You should read disasterology next time. Okay, so we got that. I have not received any other communication about anything like this. And so I guess we can kind of quickly talk a little bit about the standing committees. I don't want to go into too much detail about anybody here. Everybody here, rather. There's the people here. So in terms of the community engagement, I decided that I should probably actually look to see how many people are looking at our page. And we have 95 people following us. So, that.
I've been seeing it more.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
not great, but yeah, I'm trying to get a little bit more out, and, a lot of times the people are looking is gonna be Gina or Kathy, and I appreciate that, because it does help get, and
Turns, yeah.
it does get that moving forward and starts to do that. But, I've been noticing that there's, so anybody that has any, pictures of the local parks, so when I posted about Wilbur Park, big response. When I posted about the beginning of the opening of the garden applications, big response. So things like that got a lot bigger response. People have also liked some of the things where I posted about things that were coming up. There was a fairly good response as well regarding one that I posted a while ago about heat pumps. So I'm trying to get a better handle on what people like. If I can get 5 more people to like it, I'll get better data, because I think 100 is the...
Kitties and puppies and children.
Yes. Those were actually good ones too. At the beginning, I don't have that data fell off, but it only keeps it track for 3 months, but last summer when I was posting the pictures of some of the eagles and things like that kids were posting, they really liked that as well. Actually, that fit in really nice. I'll put something up there, because that's the mayor's thing too, so I will try to tie in on that.
Oh, and if we get the creek naming thing going, you can post.
Oh, I will definitely be doing a lot of posting on that, but I don't want to say anything on that until things are more in place.
Yes,
And
sure.
so I'm hoping to hear more about that today, but alas, spring break for,
How about some local groundhog coverage? Because they're definitely out, as are the skunks.
Well, yeah.
skunks are students, I'm not entirely totally sure.
I'm not kidding, I don't know if you've got, but they're around.
Skunks, no, groundhogs.
Skunks and groundhogs.
Oh, I like the groundhogs. I know nobody else does, but.
Kevin, can I just return to urban forest really quickly?
Yes,
And-
please.
And just to put this out there for folks, and I'm hoping that I can kind of link up with Dave. So,
Oh, right, I guess we did have
I'm
questions.
assuming Oniana had on for a second here. We have a program run on school called SOMA, where we bring students in who are the children of kind of migrant workers. And we do a special program for them during the summertime for kind of enrichment, leadership, with an eye towards helping them develop their own leadership skills and begin to think about college as an option for them. The program, there's courses on campus that they engage in. The program is based around this idea of a tree, that they're planting themselves, and there's this metaphor of tree. Right, so the tie-in, and I was talking with the organizers, and they were looking for a community service project, so I reached out to the city and said,
I was wondering how this would turn out.
right, do we have trees to plant, and so the city is working to try to gather some of the trees. It'd be in early July, I forget the exact date, I think it's 11th is the community service project. So I do want to coordinate with Dave and with Paul to see if, where we're at, but we do have 20, 25, 16 to 18-year-olds who are really
Good
good
backs.
active. What's that?
With good backs.
With good backs, and I think with some good organization and some direction, and Chris Yakubuchi and Greg Tice were interested in trying to coordinate with us and be able to do it. So one of the issues we always have is volunteers to plant those trees. So this time we've got some volunteers to both plant and water and everything else. So maybe we can take advantage of those.
Yeah, I remember that email, and it looked like things were moving, so I just stayed on it, and then I forgot to follow up on it.
Yep, so it is fully moving. We have a set date, we have a set time, it's about 3.5 hours on that July date, whatever it might be, and these young people are really excited. And the organizers love the idea of a tree because, it's the idea of actually taking this tree and getting it into the ground and maybe years later coming back and taking a look at it.
Excellent.
Soma, did you say?
Soma, Soma, S-O-M-L-A,
Soma.
That's not at all what I heard.
it's the mask.
Then I probably spaced out for a little bit. All right. So on the energy front, I did attend a public thing for the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act.
It's the LCPA.
Yep. And so that is moving along. There is a draft scoping plan overview. Just a draft scoping plan that is up and for public and for people to comment on through June 11th of this year. If you're not familiar with this plan, it's a fairly ambitious plan. And where are those numbers? So
Tonight in Binghamton is.
those are a big one tonight.
Yeah.
So 85% reduction in emissions in New York State below 1990 levels, which is really pretty significant. 40% reduction in emissions by 2030, 100% zero emissions electricity by 2040, 70% renewable electricity by 2030, and then a bunch of things like that. Kind of breaks it down a little bit. But all at the same time with commitments to the idea of climate justice and a just transition. So the two ideas is that people that have been are in underserved communities who have usually the biggest health risks associated with fossil fuel burning and things like that, the outcomes of lead and things like that, that they are part of this process and are getting most of the detail first, or most of that work through. And then the just transition is how do we take communities that have been, or jobs that have been built up around these sorts of things, and how do we transition into jobs that are cleaner. So these are just...
Can I just comment that
Yes, please.
In the law, benefits must, I mean, there's also a 25%, 27% of benefits must go
Yes.
to communities.
So any money that is,
Yes.
any of the money that the state puts aside for this, a quarter of it has to go to underserved communities. So it's a big thing. It's, however, that this planning, the scope here just says, here are the things that we can look at. It still means that we're going to have hands full with keeping track of new laws and things like that. Most of the ideas that are going to come through with this are going to be at the state level. So, and state actions, that will then probably trickle down to communities as it seems fit. But it's better than it was a year ago. It got off to a rocky start. A very, very, very rocky start. Because I don't think, people are putting a lot of effort into it, so the drafting scope is available online. I think I sent you all of that last week, and it's very long. Very, very.
That's part of the problem. They want public comment, but they put something together that's so complex that nobody knows how to
It
do
is, but they do have that overview. It's 18 slides, and it is pretty good. So that is just something I think we're going to keep an eye on, and then I also want to keep an eye on. I also want to talk to Secretary about sort of adaptation plans that the city might have for various emergencies. There was one that was written up right after the big flooding of 2008, 2007, whatever that was.
Yep.
And then I haven't found anything since, and I just don't know if that is because nothing else happened or because I'm just not very good at searching on the library sort of thing. So that is energy.
Can I have a comment on energy as well?
You certainly can.
So I went to an annual conference I go to all the time, which is the Energy Symposium up in Syracuse. And maybe
I didn't know that.
so it includes the National Grid Director of Distributed.
Yeah.
And so he talked about what's going on in upstate around Syracuse as relates to the CLCP A. And also what we're trying to transitions in terms of buildings, heating, electrification, transportation systems. And I did learn one thing that relates to the other project, which is Highway 88 has been designated as a corridor for the EV infrastructure.
Ooh.
Every 50 miles will have to be a charging station, which also provides ways to like have lunch and do other things, so it's connected to economic development.
Wow, that's cool.
So hopefully, like going on to how can we get on that? We're 50 miles or so to Binghamton, aren't we?
We're going to be right.
So that might be us.
Well,
That's
If it was,
really
but someone down on the south side actually just put in Tesla charging stations down there.
So Tesla it's only for their people, but they're starting to move to providing to others.
And there's another set of, are you thinking about the gas station?
Yeah.
There's another set of chargers that I think are not Tesla.
But the state is also mandating DC fast. They've chosen the technology that must be used, that people can charge fast enough to, again, have a small meal, that kind of thing. So what we have on campus, et cetera, that's not good enough.
Right.
It's this, so there's going to be a tremendous investment. The other big thing that affects us on energy is when we think about producing, the state's priorities are going to be large projects. Offshore wind is the biggest deal, absolutely, and that's moving very fast. But also, we want to think about if there's going to be solar, how to get it in the grid. In rural areas, we've got a weak grid. They just call it a weak grid. So there's not going to be investment for us. It's going to be a continued battle with NYSEG, et cetera, in particular. If we're not on that priority grid upgrade, which they're doing, but they're doing based on what are the, what are the highest values.
We're 20 years out from fiber.
Yeah, so, it really is going to affect how we think about, if we're going to be producing, it's not going to be for this, state system, it's going to be for us locally. Maybe microgrids still make a difference, but how we're going to interconnect to the grid, and our dependence on NICEAG will remain an ongoing problem. I even talked to the PSC chair was there. He's interested in our difficulties with NICEAG. He said, send me an email directly, what the county and others are trying, what we like and what some issues have been with NICEAG.
Right.
They've screwed, customers have been billed recently with $1,000 bills in our community, or are crying because of what NICEAG's been doing too. So if only we had National Grid, if only we were close to a major city, but we're not. So it's a very big challenge. What we can move on again is like geothermal, these things that make sense for our municipalities.
Right.
So that, it was fascinating discussion, but this, it's not going to be turbines in Otsego County. What's more interesting is hydro, microhydro, and thermal storage. So pumping, batteries and storage using using water. So that's something else we could get
There's a
in.
funny story about Carl Seeley and that little weir on the south side.
Yeah,
We'll tell you that later.
Yeah. So anyway, it was, how we fit in the state's plan is a fundamental question.
Well, that's why I wanted to bring this up, because this might be something where we might have to be a little bit more proactive,
Yeah.
jumping up and down and getting noticed.
So I think this,
Or we're going to have transmission lines going through us. That's the other thing. We become bearing the burden,
right.
not the
Right,
benefit.
without anything.
Without any benefit, yeah.
This is something where I think we need to get our arms around this, and then we need to turn to our local elected officials beyond just the city's mayor, but others.
The counties.
Exactly.
Regional response.
Right, and exactly, have a regional response, and then how do we advocate for our region in a thoughtful way? Because you're right, if not, we become the Marcy South 2 pass road.
Yeah.
And we don't want to continue that particular, pattern, and we want to be on the radar, we want to be on the agenda.
Yeah.
And I like the way you're thinking about it, is that let's have a regional solution to this. And our regional solution is not to ship it all out into the grid. How do we think about regional solutions?
Yeah. No, and I think, again, that's why I was just thinking about when they were talking about the CLPCA and how it's going to be a state, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But that means that we got to make sure that, how do we make sure that regions and communities get a part of this? And so that's why I kind of wanted to bring that up and keep that in the radar. But yeah, I like that. I like the idea that you're thinking bigger than just being a county. Like the whole Mohawk Valley region, really.
Yes.
Kind of sort of thinking of getting MVED involved.
We might also connect to Delaware.
Yeah.
And that was part of the idea behind the
Task force, yeah.
But I think because of the shift of different folks on the county board, I don't know where that is anymore. Have you heard anything about that?
No.
Neither have I.
So, I could talk to Clark or,
Yeah.
who's,
Danny's right, Danny's not there anymore, and he was our big contact information. Yeah, Clark might be a good person.
or we could, what day's the meetings? On
Thursdays, I think.
Thursdays. We can show up. To be continued. But it's exciting.
No, I think that there's a lot that's moving forward, and I think, like I said, there's nothing has been set down as something that's really happening yet. But trying to figure out a way of getting a little bit more heard, even when these laws are finally getting passed, I think is going to be important. And I think we need to start thinking about how we want to manage it. I think the region is the way to go. All right, so moving on. Why don't you can just give us a little bit and they can repeat it all next month.
Sure. So I tried
But if there's
to,
anything that you need between now and next month based on that, let us know.
just advice, from like next steps, is just need to go to the committee, that sort of thing. But I tried to pare down what I presented before into something that makes the case for endorsing sustainable purchasing practices, both the green products in the list and purchasing fuel efficient or ZEVs. And I did note that we met. I thought that was appropriate, that again, we had made this effort to reach out to city administration already and learned about OPTs already starting to think this way. And that if you agree with these claims, Kim, that we discussed the feasibility, they expressed some interest, and that's
Yeah,
reasonable
I think-
claims, right?
Yeah, I think that was,
And again, state programs that have incentives, and one of those is the electric vehicle purchasing. So that was the Mohawk Valley stuff they sent us.
right.
So it's, people have been looking at this for a while. And I did put in that Interstate 88 is now in the corridor for the vehicle infrastructure. So that is moving fast, by the way. A lot of these things, the big projects are happening, and there's already a significant investment, which is
It's an exciting
great.
time.
Yeah. So I mentioned the economic development tie, but anything else you think I should add or take out, or I'd be interested. I did check the links too, those are still good. That's always key.
I think this is
I want to keep it simple.
simple, and it's again, just sort of saying, here's sort of things on paper that we can then pursue, without like getting too bogged down in details that may or may not be feasible, but sort of setting the stage for further discussion, I think is what.
I didn't mention 2030 plan, but could, that would be useful.
I would say 2030, but perhaps even more than that is the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
To reference some of that, I think there's enough kind of space within the comprehensive plan that this fits well. My apologies, Gene, I don't remember the exact time, but I think that would be good. We're
I'll
trying
find
to-
a section.
Yeah, I think that's always part of the thinking.
Okay.
I think this is really ready, to move forward. I'm trying to think about strategically how this should go, whether it should go to a committee or whether it should be a conversation that this board has directly with the city administrator. But I feel like that bypasses the council.
No, we talked about that, and we had the discussion with the
Yeah,
administrator.
we've already discussed this.
So now we want
So
the
now-
endorsement.
okay.
Should we solicit the mayor's interest first, or?
No, I think at this point, let's bring in committee.
Okay.
And I think that the committee that's most appropriate would be the Quality of Life and Infrastructure Committee. This is kind of tangentially related to it, but we can kind of bring it up. If that committee endorses this particular action, then it's a matter of kind of bringing it forward to the large common council.
All right, so let's send this out to the rest of the board.
I'll add the comprehensive plan
Right.
mentioned first.
And then with the goal of, at the next meeting, we approve this to go on the
Okay.
quality of life committee. I think it's,
I think it's there.
I just don't, we just have to have everybody for quorum.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you have to have, I think, if you were to have pretty good buy-in from the environmental board, then I'll be able to bring that forward to the quality of life and say this was kind of, endorsed by, the majority of the environmental board, and then we give that in serious consideration. And I don't chair that committee, that's Dave Risberg who chairs that committee, but I can certainly bring it forward to him, put it on the agenda for some point in May, I would assume.
Yeah, if we get this talked, that we can get this thing approved in the May meeting, then.
Right.
When do you meet that committee? Wednesdays?
I think it's
Yeah, we're-
Thursdays, isn't it?
No, we're Mondays for sure, but I think we're closer to the end of the month always, so.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's
Bonnie, I
right.
think we're like the third week in May, I think, or maybe it's the fourth week, always, so somewhere around there, so.
That's fine.
It might be.
Yeah, let's get this thing done in May, because I know in
This
June,
thing's
a lot of us are gonna be missing again, because there's gonna be another concert at the high school.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, I was
so
thinking travel.
it is generally that, so it's April 25th this month, so whatever that last Monday in May would be, or October.
Unless it's a holiday.
Yeah, unless it falls on a holiday, but it's pretty close to the end of May, so I can take a look at that and get the information back to you.
Excellent.
But I think if you do yours, if you have the second week of May like you've been doing.
We can get this thing.
And you have it done and kind of, but at that point, I can easily get it onto the agenda.
That's what I was thinking, I mean, this is already in such good shape, I think
Yes,
that's,
exactly.
and if we send this out, if we can get those things in the language in there, Gina, like, you know, soon, so you can send it out so people can look at it before
Yeah.
May.
Yeah.
And thank you.
I won't wait till the end this time.
Oh, I'm not, you know, there ain't nothing wrong with the last minute. If it wasn't last minute, nothing would be done, but I'm just trying to think, trying to expedite, because I'm thinking about the summer and stuff like that.
I hear you. Thanks, Gina, for your effort on this.
But yes, it is nice, and it's very well done, so, and it's great. Okay, public spaces, so I was gonna bring this up, but I don't know what to do. So I'll just float this by, this thing that I was at yesterday. I would actually like to get the environmental board to sign up for a cleanup event. It could be one person, it could be all of us, it could be whatever, we just sign up.
Is this the city one?
This is the Mohawk Valley. And so what they're trying to do is it's a subset of the Mohawk Valley Economic Development, I don't know where the D is.
Development Department.
Development, there you go. So they have kind of a keep Mohawk Valley clean. I just picked this up, right? Here we go. Yes, the Keep Mohawk Valley Beautiful is a part of the Keep America Beautiful program. And last year, they basically had 30 groups participating, but they kept it kind of in the Utica area, is my understanding. And then this year, what they want to have is they want to have 300 groups in the 6 counties that make up the Mohawk Valley. So I think it's a pretty ambitious thing. The teams, again, can be as big or as small as we want. And as long as I think they said we can get it in by August, that's the reported date. So we have some flexibility. And I was thinking that we can get together and bring anybody else that wants to be a part of this and, you know, pick a park or something like that and do something.
Or any street.
Or any street or whatever in the city. But, so maybe we can bring that up, we'll start that in an email and then we can decide on what date might work. I think it's worth doing, and I think it would get us, again, more pictures and stuff like that, and show that we're actually not just sitting behind our fancy little plaques here.
And it doesn't have to just be downtown.
No.
City stretches.
Right, it could be anywhere. So what I'm saying is if we wanted to choose anywhere that we wanted to do that, we can spread out even. We don't have to all be as a group doing that, but I think if we sign up as a group, I think that would be a really good thing.
I agree.
This could be real nice. This is the Facebook right here.
Well, that's what I'm saying is, and you know, actually, we could do that. And one of the things that I looked up to see what the form was for doing this, you had a date and you had a kind of rough idea of the number of people that are doing it. But you can also say that you're willing to put your group, your team, as open to other people. So if people want to participate as a team but don't want to create their own team or don't have a team, they can actually like join in. So that would be something that we could also participate in and try to get even more people to do that, and we can go from there. So
The Chamber of Commerce is handing out
yes,
materials.
yes. So there's also like bags and gloves
and masks and gloves
and plastic water bottles.
So that, the chamber is also getting
Reasonable.
teams.
No, the chamber is kind of like the pass-through. So they're the holders of the swag.
Stuff. Are they getting their members though too?
I don't know. Presumably. I haven't seen anybody from the area sign up yet, but it was only yesterday, so.
The yoga studio, yoga people, formerly Tribe,
Nah.
they did their own cleanup. They tried to get the city to help endorse, but there were complications, so they just did their own. This
Yeah,
was-
so I think, you
They're
know,
interested in this.
yeah, so I think we can do this as the environmental board, and if the rest, I think other city groups want to participate, they can do that as well, or this could be the holding ground for the city. I think that would be good.
I think there needs to be more publicity about this.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the only way I knew about the event yesterday was you had said something about
Yeah.
presenting there. And,
I felt awkward doing it without telling y'all.
oh, no,
Just
no.
like
And as I
that.
said before, you did a great job. You did a great job. But there was an article on the front page of the paper yesterday. But unless unless it comes up again and again and again, people aren't gonna remember, I think, to do this, so.
Unless it's an organization that has people connected like the Y or that already have waste.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is there was people from Hartwick was there, somebody from, I think, Suco was there, and I think there was Job Corps people there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it'll get back
Yeah.
and stuff, but yeah, it was.
And maybe they have plans for getting more information out, I don't know, but,
My one suggestion is let dogs to be part of the crew.
Oh, there you go.
Publicity, people love,
And I'm gonna tell you, they kept ringing me on cigarette butts. I cleaned those up. I'm not. That was my job once a week every year in high school in the summertime, was cleaning up after the fair every morning after the town fair. And
Well, it begs the question of prevention, of course.
well, yeah.
And the whole Friday night thing, or Saturday morning.
yeah.
We should be dragging people out of bed to help.
I used to walk to work every day down Church Street, and the number of Solo cups and paper plates and cigarettes and cigarette pack, I mean, and it just was, it repeated every couple of days. It's just, and I don't know, did there used to be more garbage cans around
Yep.
town, where people
Yep.
could put
Ever
things
since
in?
the pandemic, there's been missing garbage cans.
Yep.
Yeah.
I noticed it, because I noticed it at Hartwick and a few other places that there just doesn't seem to be as many.
These kids walk down the street after they've been downtown, and then they just toss stuff, because there's nowhere else, well, obviously there's somewhere else for it to go, but I don't know if having trash cans on some of those streets would help it.
Once it piles up, then it changes what people's perception too, and adding to it has no consequence. So that's why we can't leave things trash.
We pulled out 4 bags of trash in that city area up there. And
Dang.
this was in October, and I think we
Yeah.
probably get 4 bags already, and
Well, and these houses, I hate to sound, well, I'm just gonna say, the student houses have these big parties, and they just throw things out in their yard, and they never bother to pick them up. Beer cans and cups, you walk down Church Street, I walked up West Street this morning, and there's a house with just probably 100 beer cans out in the yard, where they clearly had a party every weekend.
Well,
I think that would be
that should be
citable.
cited, yeah.
Yeah. But who takes responsibility for doing that?
You just,
Well, yeah.
For citing them?
Is it code enforcement or the police? That's the problem. I don't know.
you have to raise that with,
And it's the communities that complain get response. So with the students illegally parking and this and that, our neighborhood had to keep complaining, and then, because the police don't want to have to do it, they're trying to do other things.
Well, yeah.
I don't know.
no. All right, so I guess that brings us to the end.
How about your remarks?
Oh, we want to keep still, okay. Okay. All right, so here's what I said on yesterday, I guess. Every May, when the city of Oneonta is experiencing that lull that comes after the college students leave and before the baseball families and other tourists come, I find myself sitting on the deck of the Autumn Cafe or a bench here on Main Street, sipping coffee from one of our great coffee shops, or hiking a trail in one of our parks and be struck with the thought, I live in a place that people come to for vacations. We are fortunate to live in such a beautiful area where our children can play in creeks and find fossils and crayfish, where you can go swimming in one of the most beautiful pools I've ever been, also one of the coldest. A place where it is easy to get to hiking and biking trails or find a fishing spot, and a place where we don't have to go that far out of town to be able to see the Milky Way at night. So of course we want to keep this place clean. We want to preserve that beauty for as many people as we can, including ourselves. But we should also know that cleaning our land is not just a cosmetic concern. We are all too aware of what our trash does to wildlife. We have seen the pictures of animals caught in six-pack rings or the stories of animals that have starved because of all the plastic they ingested. This is their world as well, and good neighbors shouldn't trash each other's living places. But is it just the local plants and animals that are affected, or even us Oneontians? We are all connected through our waterways, and we live near the headwaters of the Susquehanna. Eventually, our trash makes its way into our streams and rivers, then to other communities, and then to the sea. All along the way, our trash can affect countless others. Lastly, we know that our plastics and synthetics aren't biodegradable, and so while we may think that these materials will last in their present form, we are now just learning how the sun, wind, and rain do break plastics down into tinier and tinier pieces, and we are now finding these microplastics everywhere. We find them in the ocean columns, we find them in our blood, and just recently studies have shown that many of us have them deep in our lungs. So our efforts to clean up our area this coming Earth Day and really every day have far-reaching effects. Every stream that remains clean for playing remains clean for the plants and animals that live there. It means that we protected people and wildlife downstream, and that finally we're doing our part to keep life everywhere a little healthier for ourselves, our children, and future generations.
I think that's a really wonderful mission statement for what we try to do here.
Again, by the way, I feel like a preacher. Maybe a Facebook post right there. Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Sure. All right. All right.
With the babbling brook in the back.
Breathe. All right, well, we'll call this meeting closed at 7:47 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Sorry I didn't catch